A bloated body drifts slowly through the cold waters of the Mediterranean, carried by the current as if the sea itself were trying to return it to land. Chained to the right wrist, a leather briefcase resists the pull of the waves. Inside it are top-secret documents from the Allied High Command, maps, official letters, coded messages. To anyone who might stumble upon that scene, it would look like a routine military tragedy. A British officer lost at sea, the victim of an aircraft accident during a wartime mission. Nothing unusual, nothing beyond one more body swallowed by a conflict that had already consumed millions of lives. But something about this story was deeply disturbing. The man had never existed. His name, his career, his friends, his fiancée, his memories, all of it was a meticulous fabrication, a carefully engineered fiction. Only one thing was real: the corpse. And that corpse was about to carry out one of the most audacious intelligence operations in history, an operation capable of deceiving Adolf Hitler himself and altering the course of the Second World War. It was the spring of 1943. Europe lay under the heavy shadow of the Nazi war
France
machine. Was occupied, Italy still allied with Germany, the Balkans under Axis control, and the Eastern Front devouring men and resources in a war of annihilation against the Soviet Union. For the Allies, especially Britain and the United States, the question was no longer whether they would invade mainland Europe, but where and when. Liberating the continent required a point of entry, a crack in the Nazi fortress, and everyone knew the most logical target: Sicily. The Italian island was the natural gateway to southern Europe, a strategic springboard that would allow an advance into mainland Italy and, eventually, toward the heart of the Reich. Precisely for that reason, it was also the location the Germans expected most: reinforced coastal defenses, minefields, heavy artillery, seasoned troops ready to turn any landing into a massacre. If the Allies attacked Sicily head-on, they would face a prepared and entrenched army. The beaches would become graveyards before the first assault line could even push inland. Something more than brute force was required. The enemy's mind had to be manipulated. Hitler needed to be convinced that the invasion would happen somewhere else, far enough away that he would redeploy troops, tanks, and aircraft, weakening the true target. A superficial distraction would not be enough. The deception had to be absolute, plausible, irresistible. It had to survive the scrutiny of German intelligence, famous for its efficiency and paranoia. It had to look like an enemy mistake, not a trap. And in that context, an idea emerged so bizarre, so macabre, and so improbable that it seemed pulled from the pages of a spy novel: use a dead man to tell a lie. Within the discreet corridors of British intelligence, strategists began developing a plan that bordered on the unthinkable. It would not be a simple forgery. Planting false information through known espionage channels would raise suspicion. The Germans would assume manipulation. What was needed was something organic, something that appeared accidental, an unplanned discovery, a plausible human tragedy. Thus, the core concept was born: a corpse carrying secret documents found in circumstances that seemed entirely natural in a place where German agents could obtain them. The body had to resemble that of a real officer, recently deceased, victim of an aircraft crash at sea. The documents had to indicate confidential military plans, but false ones. And above all, everything had to withstand medical, police, and intelligence examination. Any inconsistency could expose the deception. Finding the right body became a critical step. Not just any
needed
corpse
characteristics
that matched the narrative. Young enough to be an officer, no obvious injuries incompatible with drowning, recently dead to avoid advanced decomposition. Eventually, they found someone who fit. A man with no close relatives, whose death would not provoke public scrutiny. Officially, he had died of pneumonia, a condition that fills the lungs with fluid, something that could easily be mistaken for drowning during a superficial autopsy. A grim coincidence, but perfect for the mission. With the body secured, the creation of a complete identity began. A name and rank were not enough. An entire life had to be built. The dead man became Major William Martin of the Royal Marines. He was given authentic official papers, a military ID card, personal correspondence. The agents went further, constructing an emotional backstory. Martin had a fiancée named Pam. Carefully selected photographs showed a smiling young woman. Love letters were written in an intimate, everyday tone, as if the couple had been separated by war. There were receipts, theater tickets, bank statements, keys, the ordinary objects anyone might carry in their pockets. Seemingly trivial details, precisely the ones that made everything believable. Real life, after all, is made of mundane fragments, not just official documents. Every item was artificially aged to look used, creases, stains, signs of wear. Even human imperfections were simulated, late payments, unanswered letters, small flaws that reinforced authenticity. The main documents, supposedly confidential, indicated that the Allies planned to invade Greece and Sardinia, using Sicily merely as a diversion. Exactly the kind of information an officer might carry between commands. Important, but not so sensitive that it would never travel physically. The final decision was where the body would be discovered. The choice fell on the coast of Spain. Officially neutral, Franco's Spain maintained clear sympathies toward the Axis, and an active network of German spies operated there. Any British military material found on Spanish soil would inevitably reach Nazi intelligence. It was the perfect environment, neutral enough to appear legitimate, infiltrated enough to ensure the information reached the enemy. In the early hours of April 30th, 1943, a British submarine surfaced silently off the Spanish town of Huelva. The night was dark, the sea relatively calm. Inside the vessel, the crew prepared the body for its final mission. Major William Martin was dressed in full uniform, equipped with a life jacket, the briefcase firmly chained to his wrist. Some accounts suggest a brief, improvised ceremony, a silent moment of respect for a man who, even in death, was about to serve a monumental purpose. Then the body was carefully released into the water. The currents would do the rest. Hours later, Spanish fishermen spotted the corpse floating at sea. The discovery unfolded exactly as planned. Local authorities retrieved the body, initiated legal procedures, and notified British representatives. But behind the scenes, German agents quickly gained access to the documents. Photographs were taken, copies made, analyses conducted. The briefcase appeared intact. The story was coherent. Everything suggested a legitimate leak of Allied plans. The material reached Germany and was presented to the High Command. Adolf Hitler, known for his obsession with strategic details, examined the information carefully. To him, it made sense. The Allies might attack Greece to open a Balkan route, or Sardinia to pressure the Western Mediterranean. Sicily, in that scenario, could be only a secondary objective. Convinced, Hitler ordered immediate reinforcements to those regions. Armored divisions were redeployed, additional troops dispatched, defenses strengthened. Precious resources were pulled away from the real invasion point. Meanwhile, in Sicily, defenses remained substantial, but not as strong as they could have been. In July 1943, the Allies launched Operation Husky, the invasion of the island. Even with the strategic advantage, the fighting was fierce. Storms scattered paratrooper forces, German counterattacks inflicted heavy casualties, and the mountainous terrain favored the defenders. Yet, the invasion succeeded. The fall of Sicily triggered a chain reaction that led to the collapse of the Italian fascist regime and opened the path for the invasion of mainland Italy. Historians agree that without the deception created by Operation Mincemeat, German resistance could have been far more intense, resulting in significantly higher Allied casualties. A single corpse, transformed into the messenger of a carefully constructed lie, had helped save thousands of lives and accelerate the advance toward the liberation of Europe. After the war, Major William Martin was buried on Spanish soil with full military honors. His gravestone still stands today, bearing the fictitious name he was given. For decades, the man's true identity remained unknown to the public, shrouded in secrecy and respect. He had no choice, no voice, no recognition in life. Yet his body played a role in one of the decisive moments of modern history. Perhaps this is the deepest irony of war. Not only generals, armies, or advanced weapons shaped the fate of the world, but also silent acts, invisible plans, anonymous sacrifices. Operation Mincemeat proved that at times, information can be more powerful than any bomb, that an enemy's perception can be manipulated with surgical precision, and that sometimes the most effective weapon does not fire or explode, it simply persuades. If stories like this reveal how much the past still hides secrets capable of changing the way we see the world, then far more remains waiting to be uncovered. Buried secrets, forgotten operations, events that sound like fiction, but are real. If you want to keep exploring these disturbing and fascinating chapters of human history, subscribe to The Hidden and prepare to see the past from an angle almost no one else reveals. The man who never existed still lies there, beneath Spanish soil, remembered by a name that was not his. Perhaps no one will ever truly know who he was before becoming Major William Martin. Because in a world devastated by total war, an unknown man helped write a decisive chapter of Allied victory. Without fighting, without speaking, without even being alive, simply carrying, chained to his wrist, a lie so perfect that it managed to deceive Hitler himself.